Hey everybody, welcome to the Move It, Shake It, Celebrate It Street Party.
Once a year we throw a party here in town.
Oh yeah, music for my ears.
Just wait till you see it in a bright new way, one light at a time.
I wonder if the band is ready now.
WDW Radio, your information station.
Hello, my friend, and welcome to the WDW Radio Show, your Walt Disney World information station. I'm your host, Lou Mongello, and this is show number 591, and I'm here once again not only to help you have the best possible vacation experience when you go to the Disney parks, but I also want to bring you some of that Disney magic wherever you are with the podcast, my live video broadcast on Facebook every Wednesday night, videos, blogs, special events, and more. Whether it's your first time visiting or have been hundreds of times, if you're planning your next vacation or just love the history, details, secrets, and stories, there is something in the show for you because each week I'm going to take you from the parks to the screens and everything in between. If you're a new listener, thank you, welcome. Please go back and check out some or all the past episodes for interviews, top 10s, reviews, and more. You can subscribe to the podcast in Apple Podcasts and find everything else at WDWRadio.com. So Disney Plus isn't just a great way to watch, revisit, and discover movies, series, and specials, but it also affords us the opportunity to bring the magic of the Disney parks home. This week, we're going to share our playlist of what to watch on Disney Plus when you can't get to the Disney parks. It's going to be a compilation of some of the titles that will enhance your enjoyment, appreciation, and understanding of the parks through new and classic documentaries and films. We'll then go park by park and land by land and share what movies and series you should watch and why, and just how they connect and relate to the attractions, shows, and land. We'll also share some hidden treasures on Disney Plus, our personal favorites, and ask for your recommendations as well. I'll then have the answer to our last Walt Disney World trivia question of the week, and I'll pose a new challenge for your chance to win a Disney Prize package. Then stay tuned to the end of the show for more information, updates, your voicemails, and more. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's episode of the WDW Radio Show. When I was writing my first Walt Disney World trivia book in 2003, I included a question that went something like, what was the only time that Walt Disney World had ever closed? And the answer at that time was in September 1999, Disney World closed for Hurricane Floyd, which is a Category 4 hurricane. And then, for really the first time ever in its 28-year history, Walt Disney World closed for an entire day, which, by the way, was under the supervision of then Executive Vice President of Walt Disney World Operations and my friend and former guest Lee Cockrell, when they closed for 9/11. And then over the years, they closed for Floyd, Charlie, Francis, Jean, Matt. These aren't people. These are hurricanes, by the way, and Irma in 2017. But after they closed for a brief period of time, things would normally just quickly go back to normal, and the parks would opening up on the following day or so. In fact, did you know that for the 1983 movie Vacation, they wanted Walt Disney World to be the destination, but Disney was like, no, our parks never close. And then 2020 says, hold my Dole Whip. We all know what has happened, and the parks being closed for an unprecedented period of time has really left us all, sad and shaken and really just missing the ability to walk right down the middle of Main Street, USA. But there are ways, as there always have been really for years, to fill that void and even virtually visit. And that's why I started this show back in 2005. It's why I started live broadcasting in 2007. The virtual audio tours series also started in 2007 because they were all meant to connect you to this place and the feeling that we all love and appreciate and now really miss so very much. And it doesn't take long. It doesn't take a global pandemic for us to miss the place, because whether we can't go for a week, a month, a year, or a decade in between trips, I think we all long for the feelings that the park experiences give us. So this week, I want to help keep that connection and reinforce it and even enhance your enjoyment and appreciation of the parks even further. And thanks to Disney Plus, there are now so many ways to literally bring that magic home. So we're going to share our Disney Plus Parks playlist, movies, specials, and series that are going to bring the parks to you. And joining me is a fellow friend, podcaster, longtime Disney Parks fan, Connor Brown from WDWopinion.com.
Lou, thank you so very much for having me. I have just one question to start. Are the Walt Disney World parks closed? I've been cooped up in my apartment for the last 6 months with Disney Plus on. I haven't stepped foot outside. I had no idea.
Listen, man, timing is everything, right? I mean, Disney Plus really did just come at the right time for us fans, and even more so with being so connected from the parks and the movies and our friends, being able to enjoy these things together. Look, I've spent a lot of time not just rewatching old favorites, but I think what this has afforded us, look, again, I'll always make lemonade from lemons. I will always find opportunity where, even during this pandemic. And what I found was we have the opportunity to really, deep dive into the archives of Disney Plus, and there's the opportunity for discovery there. And I think that's one of the reasons why this is such an interesting segment, because we have the opportunity to turn people on to some of the older titles and hidden gems and really make the connection to the parks in some way.
Yeah, and I think, people get into Disney Plus for those brands that you see right on the homepage, right? Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, those big ones that, as of late have been hitting blockbuster. But I think what people stay for are hopefully these hidden gems. I mean, that's the reason, I haven't left my apartment in 6 months because of those hidden gems, because I'm like, oh my gosh, look at these old school classics on there. And also look at these things I never knew still existed that you get to enjoy anytime you want. And you can enjoy it from the comfort of your own couch.
Look, and I agree with you. I mean, it's very easy to sort of watch and binge watch the top level stuff. What I mean is, all the Star Wars films, all the Marvel films, which I may or may not have watched all of them, The Mandalorian, things like that. But there's so much more, I think, that has not necessarily been seen, or that people realize can and will connect them to the parks in some way. So this really is sort of a playlist for you of what to watch to bring the parks home and to help you understand and appreciate them some more. So we're going to share what we think you should watch, why, and I'm sure along the way, some of our personal favorites as well. And I think we're going to sort of attack this in two different ways. The first is going to be a list of ones that I think will help tell and share the stories of the parks, the people, their history. And the second, we're going to go through land by land, park by park, those movies and series to watch to help you understand that place, that land, and the stories even more.
And what I love about Disney Plus is the fact that, you can continue to discover these things. But I say this all the time, you come to a certain point in your Disney fandom where it's beyond just the normal movies, beyond just visiting the parks. Now, all of a sudden, you have to learn everything about the history of the parks, about the people that built it, about, the stories behind the parks and things like that. Disney Plus, it's the best way to do that, to broaden your Disney fandom.
Without a doubt. And the one thing I love too is everything is so very accessible, meaning you don't have to be a hardcore fan, but if you are, there are things that will let you go and dive and dig a little bit deeper. And it's like even this week, I just happened upon a couple of things I didn't even know were on there, and really was, and I'll mention it when we get to it, but I think is a hidden gem. It makes me appreciate one of my favorite parts of the park even more. Is beautifully well done, and it's not something that you're going to see, promoted everywhere because it's not, Avengers Endgame.
Oh, it's not Avengers Endgame.
Or is it? All right. So look, let's dive right in. And I think, let's get the, 800-pound gorilla out of the way. The Imagineering story is, for me, Connor, it's worth the price of Disney Plus alone. I think that this show is so beautifully done, with incredible, amazing restored footage. It's basically a miniseries which was created and directed by Leslie Iwerks. You probably know the Iwerks name. She is the granddaughter of Ub Iwerks and daughter of former Disney executive Don Iwerks. And this 10-part series really takes an in-depth, pretty chronological look at the history and the creation of all of the theme parks and attractions around the world. And I have to tell you, now, this was originally supposed to be a full documentary when it was announced like 7 years ago. I think 2012, 2013, they talked about this being a film, and then they were going to change it to a series of 6 one-hour episodes. But it starts off with the happiest place on earth. What would Walt do? The Midas touch, talking about, again, the beautiful story of the Eisner Wells takeover. Really, really well done. Hit or miss, talking about some of the things that did and did not happen. A Carousel of Progress, and To Infinity and Beyond.
And you talked about the incredible footage a little bit, but all I can say is thank God this wasn't just a single documentary, because my biggest thing with this is I want more. I want more of it. And even if we get these, 10 episodes, I still wanted more. And it's just great because I feel like this was a gift from Disney to its parks fans, which we don't typically get, but the Imagineering story, you have that incredible footage. But what I love about it, Lou, is how you're able to see the incredible passion that the Imagineers have. I think it's easy, sure, to have passion when you're creating and building the magic, but seeing the array of emotions that all of these Imagineers have, it's just so, so, so awesome. And I'm going to let you in on a little secret, Lou. I actually, this was the second thing I watched on Disney Plus. The first thing I watched was Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. I wanted to go all the way back to the beginning, but I'm a former cast member. I worked on the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train in Magic Kingdom, so I had that little tie-in. This was the second thing, but I have not watched the final episode.
Stop the recording and stop. We'll watch it together like Mystery Science. Oh my! How?
That's a new show.
First of all, I dig the fact that you went back and watched, and I should have asked you this first. Like, what was sort of the first thing that you watched? But I was so excited to get into this. Yeah, what was sort of the first thing that you watched? And we'll come full circle on that in a second, because one, I'm surprised you have the fortitude and the discipline not to do it, because when one episode was over, it was sort of like this cliffhanger, and this serialized way that they did it made me want the next episode so much more. And you hit on a word that surprised me about this show, the feelings and the emotions that this show pulled out on me. I know I'm going through menopause or something weird. I'm crying at everything lately. Like I was absolutely shedding a tear during some of these episodes.
I'm not going through menopause just yet, but I'm a big, strong, tough guy. But there was one episode in particular where I was not well. Let's put it that way. And it had to do with Tokyo Disneyland. And I think when you get to that episode, you'll understand, especially for someone like us, Lou, who it's hard to describe to our friends, why we're so enamored, why we're so connected to the theme parks. But that episode does such a great job of illustrating, the passion, the emotions that fans, that cast members have about this place. And I'm getting goosebumps right now just talking about it. It's awesome. But, the reason I haven't watched the final episode is because, yes, it starts at the very, very beginning of this series with, Disneyland, but it goes all the way up till today. And I caught a couple tweets about the final episode basically saying it's got a whole lot of spoilers about Rise of the Resistance. I, unfortunately, have not seen Rise of the Resistance. I have not been on Rise of the Resistance yet, I should say. So all I can say is I'm so proud of myself for holding out as long as I have, but I'm going to crack very, very.
Don't do it. Now that I know the backstory, don't do it. I applaud you because I'm very much the same way. I want to see things with my own eyes first, and I absolutely think that Rise of the Resistance is one that you need to experience with your phone in your pocket and just taking it all in, because it's an overwhelming experience, especially the first time you ride.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to it. Not, going in as cold as I can.
As well you should. And look, we can do an entire show about this show because it was so well done. It was such, it was more than just like a documentary about the parks and cruise lines, both domestically and, like you said, internationally. But there are heartfelt stories in there as well. And it did make me understand a lot of things more. And seeing that archival footage and hearing from the executives and the Imagineers, really, really just such a I can't say it enough, well-produced series that, like you said, makes you want more.
Yeah. It's Ken Burns couldn't hold a candle to this. There, I said it. I'm coming out. It's a family story too. You hear about
and we watch it as a family. We watch this together. Again, accessible enough for kids. My kids are 14 and 16, but I think, even a little bit younger, I think kids can certainly watch this and understand it and appreciate it as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And kind of piggybacking off of that, I don't know if this one was on your list, but One Day at Disney has a lot of really, really good stuff, especially for the parks. I think you might have talked about it before, Lou, but One Day at Disney has that kind of hour-long documentary where they go around following a lot of cast members and people like that. But during 2020, what they're doing is every Friday, they're releasing a One Day at Disney short, which means they're just following around one particular cast member. They could work in animation, they could work in Imagineering. Sage Steele is on there. She's a Sports Center anchor. Bob Iger is on there. I love all of these shorts because they're super quick and you're able to see, just how big Disney actually is. But I love seeing those cast members working in the theme parks and the unique ones like, they talk to a railroad conductor. I think they are at Disneyland. Mm-hmm. They talk to people working on the Tri-Circle D Ranch. And then my favorite one personally that I've seen is the scuba diving maintenance cast member who goes to the waters of the Jungle Cruise and Finding Nemo submarines out in Disneyland. But it's just really cool to see all those people from different walks of life working for Disney.
Yeah, and I love I like this for a lot of different reasons, right? So first, let's take a step back. One Day at Disney is really, the title is applicable to not just this series, but two other sort of connected pieces of content. There's the Big and Beautiful Coffee Table book, which they announced at D23 Expo. There's this 52-part short form series, and there's also the feature-length documentary. And in addition to things that you could find in the parks, there's Marvel executives, Imagineer, Pixar. Robin Roberts is a beautiful story from Good Morning America. But what I like about these two is, again, it's the Walt quote about people, making the dream a reality and getting to see just what life is like as a cast member and hearing their personal stories behind it as well. Like you said, you mentioned Jungle Cruise. There's an Imagineer who works on some of the droids at Galaxy's Edge, a veterinarian at Disney's Animal Kingdom. I'm trying to highlight some of the park related ones. There's an attraction host at the Mark Twain Riverboat. And one of my favorite ones, and I am surprised they showed as much as they did, we are going to only assume, because if you look around my room, there's a lot of Spider-Man stuff, we're only going to assume it is some sort of a test figure for a Spider-Man animatronic that's going to be coming to Avengers Campus later on this year in Disneyland.
Yeah, you can either have two emotions when you watch that episode. Very, very excited or terrified for your life because the robots are coming.
That's right.
But it is cool just to see how many different types of people there are working for Disney and things like that. But, Lou, you mentioned some great ones, but the cool part about all this is we still have, 6 more months of One Day at Disney shorts coming. So we don't know, the sky's the limit really with who else they're going to profile on these things.
As I was watching it, again, watching some of the episodes with my kids, I try and view these things from many different lenses, not just me as a Disney enthusiast or, from the show perspective, but from a parent's perspective. And I say, these are wonderful because it allows kids of really any age to see that working at a Disney park does not necessarily mean you're a ride operator, you're, working in a restaurant, you're working in, custodial. There are, thousands of different disciplines and jobs that you can take or start off as an intern with at the Disney company that can lead you to, places you might not have dreamed before. And I think that's part of the beauty of it too, is seeing the full spectrum of the many different roles that cast members have throughout the company. Yeah,
the sky's the limit. The sky is the limit.
So quickly, before we move forward, let's take a step back. So you mentioned that you were a cast member. I was so excited, I didn't even talk to you about your backstory. Tell us quickly, the Connor Brown story.
So I like to say I was born with Disney in my blood, and in many ways I was. My mom did the Disney college program back in the day, actually. She'd probably regret me saying back in the day, but that's not the point. She worked on the Wedway People Mover.
Oh, I love it.
Kingdom, which is so cool. And once we were down there one year and she told me that she worked there, I was like, I got to do this. I have to do this. And I was able to participate in the Disney college program as well after I graduated from college. I worked front desk at the Yacht and Beach Club Resort. That was super, super cool. And then I actually extended my program and I got to work at the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train in Magic Kingdom. And, watching One Day at Disney, Lou, in a lot of ways, I can relate to these people because one day I was working at the, kind of quiet front desk of the Yacht and Beach Club Resort. And then literally a week later, I was working at the busiest, attraction in the busiest theme park in the entire world. So even though they're only 2 miles away in Walt Disney World, it was completely different. So I basically worked in Walt Disney World for a year. I absolutely loved it. Moved back up to Maryland, but I still wanted to share my passion of Disney with my with friends, with family, with anyone who would want to listen to me ramble. So that's why I started WDW Opinion, because when I was down there, I actually realized there are so many people that come here that just don't know what Disney World is all about. They don't know, the cool things to see. They don't know how to navigate the parks well. They don't know the history of it. So I wanted to create a place where people could share Disney opinions so that others could plan for and then obviously daydream about their next perfect Walt Disney World vacation. So that's what I do, and I love it.
Well, what I dig about what you do too is you come from it from two different angles, right? You come from a passionate fan perspective, and you also come at it from a former Walt Disney World cast member perspective. So you've seen it literally from, on stage and backstage, and I think you bring a unique point of view by being able to do that.
Yeah, and one thing that people always worry about who are going to go work for Disney, or if they have, thoughts of working for Disney, is that's going to ruin the magic for them. And for me, it hasn't. The only thing, working for Disney has changed for me is I'm more passionate about the place than ever. And I care about the cast members more than I ever did. I think, cast members are the reason this place works. Seeing stuff like the Imagineering story, seeing stuff like One Day at Disney, maybe you're able to relate if you never were a cast member. But I just love, giving back to cast members, appreciating them. And people, when these parks open, I don't think we're allowed to hug a cast member. Not yet, but give them a thumbs up, tell them they're truly, truly appreciated. I know they will really, really love that.
Yeah. And I'm with you 110%. My gratitude and appreciation for the cast members only continues to grow year after year, especially now, I think more than ever. But all right. So speaking of cast members and some of the different roles that they play, we can move on to one of the next ones on Disney Plus, which is Disney Insider. Which, when I heard the name, you almost didn't really know what it was. And Disney described it as peeling back the curtain of the company like never before, taking viewers behind the movies, parks, destinations, music, toys, and more, telling 3 different unique stories that capture the magical moments and heartfelt stories of Disney on a week-to-week basis. So again, small, easily consumable segments that really do, look, this is Disney Plus. It's not just about the theme parks. It really does take you to every single aspect of the company, from Aulani with Katy Perry and Grace Vanderwaal from an upcoming drama called Stargirl, producers from Pixar and the process of developing Onward, backstage at Animal Kingdom, learning a little bit about, Shanghai. You might have heard of somebody by the name of Joe Rohde, who takes a look at things as well. So it's a really sort of wider look at the company as a whole.
And a recent episode that I really enjoyed that I think does a good, example of showing just the breadth of each episode is it started with the Walt Disney World Marathon, the one that just happened back in January. It showed them setting up on race day. It showed the president of Walt Disney, or of Disney running, I should say. They're talking to him. They were talking to people participating in the marathon. And then the middle segment was talking to employees about Sorcerer's Arena, which is a new video game that people could play. So that's another component of the Disney company. And then it wrapped up with a walkthrough of the traveling exhibit that's celebrating the Walt Disney Archive's 50th anniversary. And this is an exhibit that it's really the first exhibit that they've ever decided to pick up and move every few months. And they're going to do it kind of around the world. But it was really cool because you get to see a lot of cool props from the Disney Archives, but they're also interviewing Becky Klein, the director of the Disney Archives, and she's awesome. So those three very, very different areas of the company, but you're up to date with what's going on in those realms because these come out pretty much every week as well.
And what I like too, we talk about how Disney Plus is this wonderful pool of discovery. I think you can do that even here. You might tune into an episode because maybe the marathon is of interest to you. And next thing you know, you're learning about other parts of the company that you might not have been tuned into as well. Look, we have a running team at WDW Radio. I know basically everybody who's on that team after this aired was basically trying to fast forward like frame by frame to see if they were in like any of the shots from the last Walt Disney World Marathon.
I used to do that on YouTube videos at the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train.
Right.
Oh, gosh, please don't do that. Please don't on there. Interesting. Something just clicked for me when we were talking about Disney Insider. This is the first streaming platform that is for fans in a way, if you think about it. You're not going to get insider looks from HBO, now, Max, Go, whatever platform they're talking about. You're not going to get insider looks really from Netflix or even from Hulu. But from Disney, you're going to get these things like Disney Insider or even, like One Day at Disney that showcase what's going on in the company because we crazy Disney fans, we want to know what's going on. We want to know what's going on behind the scenes. So that's another great reason for Disney Plus. It's for the fans.
Yeah, you used the term love letter before, and I think it absolutely is. Look, giving people the content in terms of the movies from the archives and things like that is wonderful. But you're right, it is and there are these behind the scenes looks and sort of very personal, and we'll get to some of the other ones too, looks at the company that gives us as fans a view inside that we really hadn't gotten to before. And I think that's been part of the company's philosophy, I think, really since they started D23. I think that was really the first time that they realized that they wanted to give guests and fans a little bit more of a deeper look as to, the how, the where, the when, the why, and the history.
Yeah. I don't know if if you are a D23 member, you get that really cool magazine every quarter. For Disney Insider, I would basically say that it's that magazine, but you just get it pretty much every single week. And they do such a good job with that magazine, keeping people up to date, really great photography. Disney Insider is the same way. It's just a video, it's a moving magazine in a way.
So the next one on my list is one I wanted to put first. And I know there's plenty of other ones that are going to talk specifically about the parks, but I have to get to this one for a variety of reasons, including one that's personal. I was waiting for this to make its debut on Disney Plus, which it did relatively recently, and it's called The Boys, the Sherman Brothers story. And if you've listened to the show before, you know of my love of Richard and Robert Sherman. I actually spoke to the Shermans last week. It was Richard's 92nd birthday. The man is a machine. He is still going strong and composing, and he's a wonderful person. And this was originally, this documentary came out in 2009, and it was directed and produced by the Sherman Brothers' sons, and executive produced by Ben Stiller. Like, yeah, that Ben Stiller, like Zoolander. Ben Stiller.
Oh, jinx! I was just watching Zoolander.
It is such a beautiful, moving, very, very moving and emotional story about the relationship between Richard and Robert Sherman, that while it produced countless amazing pieces of work for screen and stage, their relationship, their personal relationship, was not always as beautiful as the result of their working relationship. You really get a look at not just their story and journey as to their early beginnings, who their father was, Al Sherman, and then how they came to work for and with Walt Disney, and then the processes of creating songs for Mary Poppins and Chitty Chitty Bang Bang and Jungle Book and the theme park attractions and It's a Small, it goes on and on and on and on. But more importantly, it's a look into their personal lives. And there are some sad moments that you really feel for these brothers that, again, we're creating such beautiful works and music, but we're not necessarily able to resolve their personal relationships.
As Disney fans and as the dedicated Disney fans we are, I think we need to be comfortable with watching the difficult moments, the moments of it's not always magic when the magic is being created, but in many, many ways, they're important for the process. Unfortunately, people have arguments. They butt heads and things like that. But we also know, Walt kind of liked when people butt heads because he saw great things emerge from things like that. The Boys is exactly that with the Sherman Brothers story. But I'm going to add one on as well. And this is more focused on the movies, but it is one of my absolute favorite documentaries, period. And I'm so happy that it's on Disney Plus. I absolutely love Waking Sleeping Beauty by Don Hahn. He was the producer, the director, the narrator on it. It's all about the Disney Renaissance, right? The time period where Disney, animation department was not doing well. They weren't producing many great hits. But then all of a sudden, a force of nature, Michael Eisner came in, Katzenberg came in, Frank Wells came in, and then all this talent at Disney Animation started to really kick it in high gear. And you had The Little Mermaid, you had, The Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, all of these absolutely incredible stories and movies that were told. But, in Waking Sleeping Beauty, you see the tough times too, the turmoil, the tense relationships the executives had, the animators had with the executives as well. At some points, it's tough. It's tough to watch. But at others, you realize, even with all that turmoil, some incredibly iconic and amazing films came out of that and really saved the company. I don't think the Disney company would be here if it were not for the Disney Renaissance in the 80s and the 90s.
I love the fact that it's not just a series of, quote unquote, talking head interviews, but the footage that is in here as well really helps to frame it. And I think that you're right, some of those uncomfortable moments, but you're also going to see a lot and hear from a lot of the people who brought these to life. Tim Burton, John Lasseter, Don Bluth, Ron Clements, John Musker, Steven Spielberg, Alan Menken, Howard Ashman, Tim Rice, Sir Elton John. I mean, so it is a who's who of all of the people that made this magic during this time, but also seeing some of the people whose names you may not know and some of the difficulties that they went through. I remember the first time I watched this when it first came out, because I had known some of the folks and animators who were affected by a lot of the things that were going on there. And it was a very personal film for them, just as it was for Don, which is, I think, the reason why he made it. Yeah. And it's just, I don't know, it's incredible because you kind of forget that all of those hits were made, back to back to back to back. And even before that, there were no hits and stuff like that. It's one of those places, it just right time, right place. And you really grow to appreciate, it's easy to say Walt Disney is a genius, right? But what I think we often forget is Walt Disney was also great at hiring the right people. And he did that early in his time. He hired the right animators, the right directors, the right, he shifted over the right people from animation to Imagineering to help him build the theme parks. And I think even though the company bears his name and he deserves so much of pretty much all of it, why the company was started. But after that period, we have to give credit to the people that kept it going. Those unsung heroes in the animation department, the producers, even the executives, they're the real reason that the company continues to produce these great iconic films that are really meaningful for a lot of people. So I love Waking Sleeping Beauty. I know Don Hahn, he's got another one he's producing that's going to be coming to Disney Plus. It's going to be about Howard Ashman. He was the songwriter for things like Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, also Little Shop of Horrors on Broadway. But he's a true genius and in many ways an unsung hero. And I can't wait for that documentary to come out as well. And obviously this film, although not necessarily about the theme parks per se, connects because so many of these films and their music can be found throughout the theme parks, both in World as well as in Disneyland, which maybe is a good segue to the next one on my list, which is Disneyland Around the Seasons. Oh, you're stealing all of my picks, Mongello. Oh. Well, I felt that these probably weren't ones that were picks. I just figured, we have the exact same ones on our list. And this is another one that was not necessarily created for Disney Plus. Disneyland Around the Season aired on NBC back in December of 1966, and actually specifically December 18th, and that date is significant because Walt Disney had passed away just 3 days earlier on December 15th. Obviously, Walt was, the host of the Disneyland television show since the very beginning, and this was really the first time it was going to be shown without, since Walt had passed. And actually, in the original airing, there was a little tribute by Dick Van Dyke and TV news anchor Chet Huntley, which did not make it into the Disney Plus version of it. But what this show does is Walt takes us sort of on this personal tour, as he did quite often, of Disneyland to point out some of the new additions to the park, like New Orleans Square, It's a Small World, great moments with Mr. Lincoln. It's about the season, so he shows off some of the holiday traditions like the Fantasy on Parade and the new nighttime candlelight processional. Again, part of the reason why I love this is because it's Walt, and I just, love Walt. I love seeing the restored footage from the TV show and how they were able to put this together into this single episode. I think we need all the Disneyland TV series
things on Disney Plus. I'm craving it. Anytime you get to see old school footage with Walt himself as the narrator, taking you on these stories, I'm game, man. I am game. Going forward, I would love to see more things from the Disneyland TV series. I'd love to see the Epcot film put up there. I know you can probably get on YouTube and stuff, but I would totally love that. I just learned something. I actually just learned what the name of my first child will be. Chet Huntley, right there. That's $1 million. It's Chet Huntley all the way.
What part of the reason why I like this and some of the other films that you're talking about is because I love seeing the way the parks used to be, right? So many of the attractions that we go there now and are familiar with were not there in the 60s. And also watch, too, just from a filmmaking perspective, meaning watch how the shows were filmed versus what we see today on, the Walt Disney World Christmas Day Parade special, how close the cameras were. It seemed like they just sort of had free roam and free reign to go anywhere they wanted. And I think this show touches on our sense of nostalgia, seeing what it would have been like. And I think for some people that watched this when it first came out in the mid-60s, it's probably going to be a wonderful look back at something that they remembered from their child or adulthood.
I want to know the first person who's responsible for photobombing. And I want to go back in time, have a word with them. Because these sorts of things, no one photobombs the camera. They're just going about it. They're not, oh, look at camera, stuff like that. They're just existing in Disneyland, which I think that's just as cool to see how people were interacting with the park on top of seeing Walt, on top of seeing what it looked like on the attractions that are no longer there, seeing how, people dressed up, obviously, Dapper Day sort of thing that makes sense once you start watching these things. But just seeing the production and stuff is so cool. And we often forget with every new thing that comes, with Galaxy's Edge, with Toy Story Land, with so much new stuff that we have coming to Walt Disney World, especially, we forget how long these Disney parks have been around, how many generations they've had an impact on. So watching stuff like Disneyland around the seasons is a good way to remind yourself of, wow, these things have been an institution for quite a while.
Yeah, and like you said, you're not going to see many people taking selfies with the cupcake of the month and, 13-year-old girls doing TikTok videos behind. So.
You tread lightly on TikTok, my friend. I'm famous over there.
So yeah, Disneyland around the seasons is definitely one that should be on your radar, connecting you to the parks. I'm going to bounce back to Walt Disney World, and if you have ever, we talk about the parks being places of fairy tales and dreams coming true. Disney fairy tale weddings is not one, not two, but three, count them, 3 different ways to find out what it would be like to plan and have your wedding in Disney, because it was a Disney fairy tale wedding special from 2017, which was a full-length look at some of the different options for planning a wedding at Disney, from fashion to flowers to locations to cruise line. If you can dream it and pay for it, Disney can make it happen. There was also the multi-part series of about 45 minutes or so episodes that follow different couples along their journey to plan their wedding. And then there's also a separate Disney Fairy Tale Weddings Holiday Magic Special. So if you like weddings and Disney, you've got your Saturday night planned out for you.
Only problem, where's the open bar? Not in my apartment, unfortunately. Disney, I don't realize how big of a hit this was going to be, but kudos to them, because when it first started coming on Freeform, formerly ABC Family, RIP, when it first started coming out there, people really liked it. So kudos to Disney to, keep giving the people what they want with these fairy tale weddings, and then also putting it on Disney Plus relatively soon once the platform launched. But kind of piggybacking off of that, still in Disney World for the most part, but around the same time, we have Decorating Disney Holiday Magic, which I think originally aired on either ABC or Freeform around 2017. Obviously, if you've been to Disney World or any of the Disney parks during the holidays, the Christmas holidays in particular, it's completely transformed. It's like you're stepping into new theme parks. It's my favorite time of the year, not just because it's not stupid hot out. It's moderately hot out when you go there, but I love seeing all of those decorations. And this special Decorating Disney Holiday Magic, you get to see all the work that goes into it because, it seems like it's something where one day it's Halloween decorations and the next it's holiday decorations, Christmas decorations. And that's true for, the person who isn't working there, but there's so many people who work year round to maintain the decorations, who are buying new decorations, who are planning for the years to come. And when I was a cast member at Magic Kingdom, there are a bunch of warehouses and shops behind the Magic Kingdom. And one of the biggest buildings I've ever seen in my life just says the Holiday Shops. And it's filled with all of the decorations from around Walt Disney property that they put in there when they aren't being displayed. So, getting able to see, those holiday magic things and Decorating Disney, it's just a really cool special.
Yeah, and I've had a chance to go and visit that building. Actually, if you do Keys to the Kingdom, there's a couple different tours, a couple of different backstage tours. Keys to the Kingdom doesn't take you. I think Backstage Magic takes you there. And I think there's also a holiday tour that you can take that will take you. It is a mind-blowing. Like, if you love Christmas or the holidays, this is your nirvana. It is absolutely staggering, the number of Christmas decorations and how it really is a 365 day a year process to get ready for, execute and then break down the holidays at Walt Disney World. Actually, I know I did an interview for the show years ago with the head of the building. I'll try and link to it in the show notes where you can just search for it in iTunes. But it was a fascinating look at how it's done. One of the things I liked about this was there's one section that talks about the Haunted Mansion holiday overlay in Disneyland. I have tried wrapping myself around Nightmare Before Christmas. I can't really do it, but for some reason, I love the Haunted Mansion holiday in Disneyland so very much. Not just because of how good it smells there and all the Christmas food that you can get outside.
I mean, it's the food. Come on. I don't know why you're lying to us. It's the food.
It's always
It's always the food. It's always the food. So much. It's a full-time job decorating Disney. The holidays start super early at Disney World, but they last just as long when it comes to the planning and operation of that. So I love that. I love that a lot. Lou, this one might be a little bit of a go with me here on this, but I'm going to try to tie it into the theme parks as well. True Life Adventures. You can find them on Disney Plus. If you don't know what these are nature documentaries that pretty much started out as short films, 30 minutes or so, but they started all the way back in 1950. And for the most part, the True Life Adventures, they went through 1960. Well, on Disney Plus, you can get these short ones that are in Beaver Valley, Nature's Half Acre, the Olympic Elk, Water Birds, Prowlers of the Everglades. And then they have features, which are, an hour and a half long. And they have ones on Disney Plus, including The Living Desert, The Vanishing Prairie, The African Lion, Secrets of Life, Perry is about a mischievous squirrel, and Jungle Cat. These are cool because for me, it's incredible just how good the cinematography was way back when in the 50s and the 60s to capture things like the African lion, the animals of the prairie in America. And before the African lion feature, I know it actually started, this film took 3 years to make, and it came out in 1954. So it's just crazy to me, the fact that Walt Disney himself had, the ambition and the idea to say, hey, let's send some filmmakers out there. Let's do these true life adventures of what we're going to call them. But coming back to the theme parks, places like Adventureland they're really themed after these true life adventure features, whether it's, you can definitely see, the African lion and jungle cat within Adventureland in Walt Disney World. And those true life adventures, it's really, Adventureland is a way for the guests to have their own true life adventures anytime they step into the theme parks.
I agree with everything you said. And I think this is one that would often probably be overlooked by people. But I think one of the things I love about true life adventures, again, is it the connection to Walt and his love of animals. I think if you are familiar with and if you like the Disney Nature series, this is very much sort of the early incarnation of that. And I think that you're right. And as we go through later on, there are ones that I was sort of pulling out that specifically tie into some of the different parks as well. But I agree too. You almost forget that these were made as early as they were, going back to the late 40s, early 50s in terms of the quality. And some of them are really funny too. I think kids, especially if your kids love animals, I think your kids would really enjoy these too.
And don't be turned off because they do have the Disney Nature films, or they have all the National Geographic films on Disney Plus. Those are still incredible. Those are all in super 5K, 10K, whatever IP, H definition on your TV, on your tubes. You can watch them, but go back to True Life Adventures, not because they're shot in super HD, but because of the storytelling, and put yourself in those filmmakers' shoes way back when in the 50s and 60s.
So you mentioned that it was all about the food. So I'm going to jump to another one that will connect you to the theme parks, because look, some of the best ways to learn about a place and to truly experience it is to just eat your way through it. And it should come as no surprise that Be Our Chef is a show where it's part game show, part, where families come together and they are challenged to recreate or create on their own dishes that are inspired by the magic of the Disney parks and the Disney films. Each episode is hosted by Angela Kinsey, who is from The Office. And it's sort of this cook-off type challenge using... What I like is that they integrate their own family traditions and skills while trying to also bring in some of that Disney magic. So 2 families compete each week, and then the 2 families that have the most wins after X number of weeks will compete against each other in like a no-holds-barred cage match to win a grand prize, which is a cruise. And I believe their dish also will become a signature dish or treat that will be served at the Walt Disney World Resort.
I'm excited to see what these children come up with. 2 families enter, 1 family leaves. The other children are subjected to It's a Small World for the rest of their lives. Unfortunately, it is a very, really, really cool concept, especially because, you hear all the time about the Disney food labs, like what they're going to come up with next. And every time I hear of a new cupcake or a new dish or whatever, I have 2 thoughts. My first thought is, that sounds incredible. Or my second thought is, how did they come up with that? How did they come up? So peeling back the curtain behind that, and I think it's judged by Angela from The Office, but there's always like a Disney chef involved too, right? I think sometimes there's one for the head chef from Epcot, a couple of the other food
Chef Greg, Chef Greg is there. I've seen him a couple times. He's always there at Food and Wine Festival too. So sometimes you'll see familiar faces that you'll find on the promenade at Epcot.
Yeah, so it's cool, and those ways we're gonna see it all the time, because Disney, they're masters of synergy, right? We're going to see more in the park sort of things on Disney Plus that are going to be, featuring the parks, but then we're going to see them later enhance the parks in some ways. It's going to be kind of like a Pirates of the Caribbean kind of thing. The attraction influenced the films, and then the films reversed and influenced the attraction again. I think this is what we're going to start to see with Disney Plus as well. Things that we're seeing on Disney Plus, we're going to start seeing in the theme parks.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a great opportunity to create content that will, serve as not just attractors, but they are advertisements without actually being, running an ad. And the one thing about this show is it definitely is geared towards families, I think, to watch together. A lot of times the kids are relatively young, anywhere from maybe, 7 to 12 or 15. So it is sort of that idea, I think, of sitting around, the living room TV and watching together, which my family has done. We started watching one episode and, there was parts of it that were kind of goofy, but next thing you know, we're like, oh, there's a new episode this week. And we're having dinner and we're watching Be Our Chef and following the different families along and seeing how creative they get. So it's very, very lighthearted and a lot of fun. Not necessarily something where you can create this at home, but it might inspire you and your family, especially now when we're sort of locked in together, to say, hey, let's have a Disney, themed meal night and recreate, Epcot around the world or dishes inspired by our favorite Disney Plus film.
Just wait for the Gordon Ramsay episode. He comes in and he lets those kids have it. He does not let up. It is aggressive. Oof.
Yeah, not everybody goes home a winner in this one. So there is look, it's not a very high tension, high drama, kind of thing, but it's definitely very lighthearted fun.
I like it. And, family friendly, always good. One for me that I think it doesn't get overlooked, but I think now, especially with the debut of, it was open for a couple of days and then the world shut down, of Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway in Hollywood Studios. And, in a couple of years, it's also going to come to Disneyland as well. I think people really have to get acquainted with the new Mickey Mouse cartoon. And I say new because I think the first, iteration of Mickey in this new look came out around 2014, something like that. But if you go to Disney Plus and you type, you click the search icon, the magnifying glass, I love one thing here. They have all these different collections, right? They have the Skywalker collection. They have the Darth Vader collection. They have the Marvel. They have the Spider-Man. They have the Disney Princess collection, but they have one called Mickey Mouse and Friends collection, and it's filled with old school shorts, Steamboat Willie, shorts through the ages. They have ones with, a Goofy movie will be in there. Donald Duck cartoons are going to be in there. But then they have this new style of Mickey Mouse that has started since 2014, and they're really, really, really funny shorts. There's a few seasons of them. I highly recommend just putting them on, keep them running. Really, really creative, really, really fun. But what that's also going to do is going to introduce you to the types of Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse, Goofy, Donald, Pluto that you're going to see in Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. They might look a little off, a little different than the Mickey you know and love, but I assure you they're absolutely hilarious. And, Potato Land all the way.
Yeah, Potato Land is definitely the connective tissue there, as it pays tribute to a lot of iconic Disney parks attractions. And you might see a reference to Potato Land when you get to ride Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway again, or for the first time, if you haven't had a chance.
Well, there's always a reference when I eat a bag of potato chips or French fries. Every ride going to Disney. I get ridiculed a lot, but they can't stop me.
So one that I have to include, although it's not necessarily one that is directed to a story about the parks, and it's a movie. It is not a documentary, and it's Saving Mr. Banks. And I included it. It's a 2013 film, obviously with Tom Hanks playing Walt Disney. Talk about pressure. And Emma Thompson is P.L. Travers. And it really is about the story of how Mary Poppins, the film, came to be, and the interesting dynamic and relationship between Disney and Travers. But there are scenes early on in the film, or later on in the film, that show Walt taking Travers on a tour of Disneyland, again, in that same type of early time frame. So when I was thinking about films that would either took place in the parks or had a reference to the parks, and I liked Saving Mr. Banks a lot. And again, going back to my love of the Shermans, seeing the presentation of the young Shermans, not just crafting the music, but the relationship with them and Walt and Travers as well really makes this a definite must see.
God bless those people that made that film. My goodness, what a journey they went on, let alone how incredibly difficult it was to make just from a technical perspective, coming up with those iconic songs, combining all the animation, the penguin scene and things like that. But then obviously, having to work through all of that with PL Travelers, who did, the original Mary Poppins books that Walt Disney's daughters loved so much. I love it too. And, anytime I can see Paul Giamatti holding a gigantic Mickey Mouse, stuffed Mickey Mouse in Disneyland, I'm game. And
I think I can say this. I think it's okay. So again, I've known Richard and his wife for years, and we talked about the film at some point. And I think they've said publicly, so it's okay that, as tough as this film made Travers out to be, she was, in their words, a much more difficult person to deal with in real life, and it's almost it's a miracle that the movie got made at all.
Yeah, I think the ending, from what I've been led to believe, it's very peaceful, nice, and things like that. But I think even then, PL Travelers, had a few choice words for
oh yeah, she came out of the premiere like, okay, I have notes, and Walt's like, no, we're done. Like, we're done here. This is it. That's not how it works. This is not like a screening. This is this is the thing that's going out to theaters.
Yeah, I don't know how they got Dick Van Dyke's accent past her, but good on them.
I think they just stopped showing her at some point, and we're like, we've got enough approval to just keep going.
Yeah. And if we want to combine Saving Mr. Banks into something that you've recently talked about on the show, Lou, prop culture, with Dan Lanigan. I mean, first episode is all about Mary Poppins, but for me, I love, this is a somewhat controversial opinion. My favorite theme park is actually Hollywood Studios. I've always loved it. I think it's because on our trips, my mom would explain to me that Hollywood Studios was always the last park we visited. So it was always the freshest in my mind growing up and things like that. But watching prop culture, it reminded me of, when they used to have a Catastrophe Canyon, the backlot tour, going through those sets, seeing, as you went through the line as well, you got to see props from different films and things like that. And really, I mean, that whole area of Streets of America was just props here and there and all over the place. So there's so many cool things in prop culture. And every once in a while, you'll see the Muppets or Pirates of the Caribbean or Mary Poppins, and somehow it'll trigger a memory in my head that reverts me back to the theme parks as well.
Yeah. And I had a chance to interview Dan Lanigan, who was the creator and host, back on show 586. And, I've said many times, I loved prop culture. Was a huge, pleasant surprise for me, far exceeded my expectations. And again, I found myself, there are emotional moments in there because it's not just showing the props. It really is a show about the people behind them, whether it be the actors or I love the fact that they brought out many of the people who helped to craft and create those props, people whose names and faces you might never have heard or seen otherwise.
It's just nice knowing that there's other people out there, celebrities included, crying over snow globes, and it's not just me.
So for me, and the way I started to approach the next part of my list was I found myself sort of piecing, like, this makes me think of this, or I would think of a land and it would make me think of some of the different movies. So I started to think about some of the movies and shows to watch to directly connect you to the parks. And I thought about going through it sort of park by park, land by land. Unless you have something that sort of falls outside of that approach, we can just start, walking right down the middle of Main Street, USA and hitting it that way.
Let's hit it.
So for me, again, we mentioned things like Disneyland around the seasons, where you can see what places like Main Street would look like, in the 50s and 60s, but there's a couple of other ones too that I think you can watch to make the Main Street connection. So Lady and the Tramp, you could obviously not only find the paw prints, but you can find the Hatbox. When I say Lady and the Tramp, I mean the animated. There's also the live action version. Certainly Mary Poppins, Pollyanna. I wish, because I actually just watched it. Summer Magic is not on Disney Plus. It's worth the $3 rental on Apple TV, because from the first 10 seconds of the opening, you are on and you are hearing Main Street USA.
And let's also not forget, who's the proprietor of the Emporium? Osh Popham.
And I love Burl Ives. Like, I just want to be friends with Burl Ives. Not just because he was Frosty the Snowman, but because he's Osh Popham.
Yeah, Osh Popham. So great. There's so many little things in Main Street as well that just remind you of something. It doesn't have to be, like a Summer Magic. It doesn't have to take place at that time or whatever. I think it's just the colors and stuff even remind me of certain things for whatever reason. And I love it. Every once in a while, I'll catch a window on Main Street and I'll remember, the people that helped create not just the Disney parks, but the Disney films and things like that, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, I think you could also you could maybe throw even in there, and I'll stretch a little bit. You can probably throw in Old Yeller, just because you should watch Old Yeller, even the sad parts, just because of the time frame. This takes place, late 1860s, early 1870s. Somewhere. There's also another, it's a movie called America's Heart and Soul from about 2004. And while it doesn't take place during the time of Main Street, I think it sort of follows along in that same vein of, the lives of American dreamers in the heartland and some of the inspiring stories, which I think is what Main Street USA and the Osh Popham story and all that is really supposed to embody as well.
And we obviously know, Walt's a true American, no doubt about it. So any of those turn of the century films, I think, are just fantastic. Yeah. Absolutely fantastic. Which way we want to go, Mongello? You want to go right?
There's only one way to go. You have to go to Adventureland next.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Because you can't ride Space Mountain first thing in the morning. You got to go and listen, there's a whole, next time you come down, we're going to do the walk this way, because I have it all planned out. So you hit certain snack and dining locations just at the right time of day.
Yeah. I once wrote Space Mountain first in the morning. Well, it was after a buffet at the Crystal Palace. Let's just say people were upset with me after that run. And that's another story for another day.
All right. So films or series on Disney Plus that connect you to Adventureland.
I mean, Pirates of the Caribbean, obviously, it's so great because Disney has tried so many times on several different occasions to take one of their iconic attractions and make it into a film, a blockbuster film, right? Haunted Mansion with Eddie Murphy. We don't really need to bring that up. Tower of Terror with Steve Guttenberg.
Classic. Come on.
They think they still sell DVD copies.
They do.
Come on, we don't have any DVDs anymore, DVD players. But, I went back, Lou, and I just watched every single Pirates that is on Disney Plus right now. I think one is currently missing. I think, and you'll get that every once in a while. There are other licensing agreements that haven't expired yet. So eventually they'll all be on Disney Plus. And just the ability to watch it from start to finish. I don't think I had ever done that with the Pirates films. And I love the first one so very much. And, going back to the ride after I watched them all, I just think it's cool just to realize different generations built one thing, but then as someone rode the ride, they got an idea, and that idea became a film and a series and a thing that's really, really just entertained so many different people.
Yeah, and I think that there's other ones that are obvious with connections to Adventureland. So Aladdin, both the animated, live action. If you want to sit through The King of Thieves and Return to Jafar, go for it. All of the different versions of Lion King, Jungle Book. as you dig a little bit deeper, I also think that you should look at The African Lion from 1955, Jungle Cat from 1960, African Cats, which is a Disney nature film, with addition to Chimpanzee, also Disney nature. There's also Lost Cities with Albert Lin. It's a Nat Geo film, a Nat Geo series. Really, really, really good. And I'll touch on Nat Geo and how I've recently been turned on some of the beautiful stuff that's there. There's also Lost Treasures of the Maya. If you haven't watched Swiss Family Robinson, why not? Please go back and do it. It is, it's from the 60s. Obviously, there's a connection to not just the treehouse, but it really makes you feel Adventureland-ish. Tarzan is going to be on June 23rd. And I think we mentioned already Jungle Book and all the prequel, sequels, live action Mowgli story. And
yeah, absolutely. There's a lot. I mean, I don't want to get too far down the road, but one of the biggest disappointments for me this year was, Jungle Cruise getting extended until 2021. I think that movie is just going to be awesome. You got Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, you got Emily Blunt. It's going to be really, really, really good. So I'm excited for that and to see, if we get any pirate sort of things going on with Jungle Cruise as well. So
the teasers and the trailers, seeing it from two different perspectives, very interesting. Really, really smart, creative way to tease the upcoming film. All right, let's walk around and walk through. We'll stop and get something along the way, but we'll also go to Frontierland next.
Yes, Frontierland. One film is not on Disney Plus. I think we're well aware of what film is not on Disney Plus, but listen, don't beat around. Song of the South. Again, we've talked about it on the show in the past. Clearly, at the time it was made, it was it's not sensitive in a lot of ways. It's funny because I think a lot of people ride Splash Mountain and don't even know that there was an associated film with it. I do think, I think there are some redeeming qualities to the film that I almost wish you can sort of pull out and just watch on their own. The performances are fantastic. The music is wonderful. And there's some wonderfully redeeming characters and storylines that are throughout. It's unfortunate that the rest of it gets lost in the story and the time period, in history. But I don't ever expect Splash Mountain. I don't ever expect that film, Song of the South, to ever be on Disney Plus. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you in many ways, the characters of Splash Mountain, Brer Bear, Brer Fox, Brer Rabbit, Brer Frog, they're their own characters now. Generations of people know them as the Splash Mountain characters. That's how we know them. Splash Mountain is probably my favorite attraction in the park, next to the People Mover. But I just love the story that it tells within that attraction. Like you said, we're never going to get it on Disney Plus, but it's an interesting story, I guess, of why we don't have it and how it influenced the ride and things like that. I'm going to tie in Splash Mountain to the crazy Michael Eisner story. I'm a big Michael Eisner guy, especially his crazy stories and things like this. Splash Mountain originally had a different name, and Mr. Eisner, being as synergistic inclined as he is, said, who are the two hottest stars in America right now? Tom Hanks, Daryl Hannah. We got a great film coming out, Splash, which is awesome. And Splash you can watch on Disney Plus. And the reason he wanted the name change to Splash Mountain was for some weird synergy thing, because when you think Splash Mountain in Frontierland, you think Daryl Hannah as a mermaid.
But listen, kudos to Tony Baxter going, okay, what if we took the name, but we made a different theme and one that works, obviously very, very well. There's obviously, I think, some other titles on Disney Plus that are very clearly referenced throughout Frontierland. Davy Crockett, King of the Wild Frontier and the River Pirates is on there as well. And if you haven't seen some of the great tributes to Davy Crockett inside Pecos Bills, get yourself a big old honkin' mess of stuff from the Fixin's Bar and go look in the back room near the Splash Mountain side. Obviously, Pocahontas, Melody Time. Definitely go and check Melody Time. Actually, if you go back to WDW Radio episode number 3, like not 300, not 30, 3, we did a deep look inside of Pecos Bills and talk about a lot of the references that you can find there that reference Pecos Bill from Melody Time. There's also The Adventures of Huck Finn, The Adventures of Bullwhip Griffin, which is also referenced, by the way, on Main Street USA, Tom and Huck, White Fang. I'm going to stretch a little bit or a lot and say there's a show called Encore on Disney Plus, and episode 105 is about Annie Get Your Gun, and episode 106 is Oklahoma, which I think sort of can loosely tie into the Wild West of Frontierland.
All right, Mongello, let's sing it. 1, 2, 3. Oh, come on. Sing.
Listen, there's a lot of things you don't want to hear me sing. The theme song, you have a better chance of me singing Davy Crockett when we're done recording than you do
We
Oklahoma.
can do that too. Davy Crockett. That is my favorite. What is your favorite? Well, we can talk about it. I don't necessarily suggest people watch the Country Bears, another, I know, not a great representation of an attraction in a theme park, but, the Country Bears is on. I will say, hearing stories about how the Country Bears was made and how it's a lot like Dinosaurs, which is another Jim Henson studio production that is coming to Disney Plus later this fall. It's really crazy to hear how the puppeteers of those Muppets, because essentially that's, what they were. They worked with the Jim Henson Company in a lot of ways. It's just full body suits that they're wearing with TV monitors inside their chests. And for that alone, I think you should watch it and realize there's a human being in there working all the things and going back and forth with that. So.
All right, let's keep moving on because otherwise we'll be here because we got lots more parks to get through. So I'm gonna put it on double speed a little bit. So let's move over to Liberty Square, and the Liberty story is a 1959 episode of the Disneyland TV show that was there to promote the plans for what was going to be Liberty Street at Disneyland that obviously never materialized. But there also is references to Johnny Tremaine, which is referenced there, and the 1953 short called Ben and Me, starring Sterling Holloway, by the way, and Amos the Mouse, which talks about Ben Franklin and his career. Just for the few minutes that you get of the preview for Liberty Street is alone enough to watch and hear Walt talk about what the inspiration for what that was going to be and what it was going to look and feel like.
Yeah. And, again, anytime you see Walt in it, I'm game. I'm watching it.
I think we have to mention Hamilton is coming on July 3rd. It was originally supposed to come out in October 2021, I believe, and they bumped it up to this year.
We could sing some Hamilton songs.
I don't even know any. I know. I don't even know any Hamilton songs. My daughter is screaming in the other room as I say that out loud.
That's all right. I've seen it. It's incredible. I can't wait to see it with the actual cast, the original cast, Lin-Manuel Miranda from, I think it's the Rogers Theater in New York, but that's going to be awesome when it comes to Disney Plus.
And if you want to watch The Haunted Mansion, just watch it for the scene of the busts singing Grim Grinning Ghosts.
Sure. Yeah.
That's probably
fast forward.
That's probably the right. Then you're pretty much done. Yeah. Fantasyland is pretty much straightforward with a lot of the films are referenced. I'll just quickly fly through them. Aladdin, Alice in Wonderland. I think Bedknobs and Broomsticks you could even throw in there. Dumbo, Fantasia, Frozen's, plural, Pete's Dragon, Peter Pan, Pinocchio, Sleeping Beauty, Snow White, Tangled. You need to watch The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, if not for Disneyland alone, Little Mermaid, and The Sword in the Stone.
Yeah, I think you could throw Aladdin in there at times too. I don't know, just for Philhar Magic and stuff like that. So yeah, pretty much if you see an attraction, in Fantasyland, there's going to be some sort of movie tie-in.
For Tomorrowland, what would you put on there for Tomorrowland?
I think you just want me to say Tomorrowland, and I'm not. You won't make me do it. I'll give Tomorrowland, the movie with George Clooney, another shot. I haven't yet. I think it was hyped up to be something really, really, truly epic. I don't think we necessarily got that. I think it was really cool that, it was going to be Brad Bird and George Clooney, and it wasn't the sort of park tie-in that I wanted. I think that's what a lot of people thought. But I'll say something real easy. We'll throw in the Rocketeer. You can make that association, of course, with Tomorrowland, and that's just a cool thing because it's not the greatest movie in the world, but it is a hidden gem when it comes to Disney films in a way, and being able to access it all the time on Disney Plus. Really, really cool.
Yeah, I think there's some too that are not necessarily connected to the parks, but I think that they have that future exploration, space travel. So Apollo Missions to the Moon it's a 2019 movie about the story of Project Apollo and the 12-man missions. There's also Expedition Mars, Spirit and Opportunity, Man Inside Space. There's Man in Space is another episode of Disneyland. And back on the show a number of episodes ago, we talked about Disney and space. There's some really good, first of all, there's great animation in here. Part from Ward Kimball, one of Walt's 9 Old Men. Really interesting look at the space program. Werner von Braun, a lot of discussion there. I don't want to sort of rehash what it is, but if you're interested in any of what the United States was doing in terms of space travel in the 60s and how Disney helped contribute to that, this is great. Again, I would certainly put Tron and Tron Legacy in there as well. Rocketeer was very much on my list. I think if for younger kids, there's Miles from Tomorrowland.
You can still throw Buzz Lightyear. You got your Toy Story references in there and stuff like that. Piggybacking on the space thing, coming soon, you're going to have from Nat Geo on Disney Plus. I can't remember if it's a mini series or a full series, but they are taking the right stuff, the Tom Wolfe book, and then the film, and they're making it into a series as well. So that's going to be very, very cool.
Cool. Let's move over to Epcot Center, which is what it'll always be called for me. And we can sort of just go, any that for that specifically tie into attractions. So, for example, Spaceship Earth. Again, I'm going to go bounce back to National Geographic, which I think for a lot of people are they don't even think about some of that content, and you should. There's a series called Origins: The Journey of Humankind, which tracks human evolution through things like fire and communication and some of the things we see inside of Spaceship Earth.
I think eventually we're going to be able to, we might as well start preparing. Let's start watching the Guardians of the Galaxy. They're going to be in Future World in due time. So you might as well start getting friendly with Peter Quill, Star-Lord, and the likes.
Certainly there's a lot of other Nat Geo content in terms of tying into the seas with Nemo and Friend. A lot of things that look into ocean life. Giants of the Deep Blue, Kingdom of the Blue Whale, The Sharks of Lost Island, which sounds like it would be an awesome adventure movie. And there's also
on the island they have legs.
Right. Land Shark. For those who remember Saturday Night Live from the 70s, Land Shark. And then Dolphin Reef is the first Disney nature film, which is going to be released exclusively on Disney Plus.
Yes. Yeah. I think that one is Natalie Portman narrates that one on Disney Plus, which is cool. I'll do some quick hits of the World Showcase if you want to move on over there.
Wait, just real quick. So obviously you got to watch all the Honey, I Shrunk These. Honey, I Shrunk the Kid, Blew Up the Kids, Shrunk Ourselves. You've got to watch Flubber, the original Absent-Minded Professor, to tie it to the Imagination Pavilion. For Mission Space, there's Roving Mars, Expedition Mars, and there's also Mars Inside SpaceX, which looks at Elon Musk and some of his efforts to get humans onto Mars. And then there's also, again, the Apollo missions to Moon. And I'm gonna stretch here, Con. I'm gonna really stretch because I needed to find something to tie into Test Track. So I give you.
Oh, please.
Oh, I'm giving it to you. I'm giving you the love bug. No. Herbie Rides Again. Herbie Goes to Monte Carlo. Herbie Goes Bananas. And Herbie, if you have to, Fully Loaded.
Her Fully Loaded. Oh, no. He went the whole way. Oh, no. I will say, you want to stretch, go ahead and stretch your legs with that Herbie reference there, Mongello. But I'll say, when I first went onto the new, quote unquote Test Track, the first thing I thought was they built a Tron ride. I get a lot of that, power cycle sort of light cycle sort of thing going on in the new Test Track. So I'll give you that. And then all that space stuff too. Remember, eventually we're going to get the Space 220 restaurant open. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be some cool tie-ins there as well.
And I think, and I tried to find something for the land, like anything. And I'm going to really stretch because I love this movie so very much. And I'm going to tie in WALL-E because it's all about the environment and caring for the planet.
We did a podcast, the WDW Opinion podcast, where we kind of talked about re-theming attractions and stuff like that. Not that we ever want the land re-themed, but we said we could do a WALL-E overlay over there and it would make perfect sense.
Yep. So I'm down. All right. So bring us into World Showcase because I'm starving anyway.
Hola. We are in the Mexico Pavilion. And before we get an avocado margarita from Cava del Tequila, a couple ones I wanted to talk about. The Three Caballeros, obviously the original ones, but also there's an animated series that only lasted 1 year. In 2018, it was called Legend of the Three Caballeros. It's actually really, really good. If you like the new DuckTales or even the old DuckTales, I think you're really going to enjoy this. Saludos Amigos, of course, as well. But then a documentary one, Walt and El Grupo. That was directed by Frank Thomas's son, I believe, the Nine Old Man animator as well. But this is all about Walt and his animators taking a goodwill tour to South America during the 1940s. There's a lot going on in the world then, of course, and the American government basically asked Walt to kind of, be friendly with our allies, and as it were. And then what they learned there, they came back and they made the Three Caballeros and Saludos Amigos. So I love that for Mexico. And then, of course, as of late, Coco, there's still an exhibit there, I believe, in the Mexico Pavilion, which is great. And gosh, boy, oh boy, do I love that movie. It is so good. And I'm having tie-ins to one of my favorite World Showcase pavilions in Mexico. I'm cool with that.
I agree 100%. And I want to just sort of highlight Walt and El Grupo. It might not on its face seem like something that you should watch, but if you are a fan of Walt himself, there's a lot of personal stuff about Walt there too. It was right about the time that Walt's father had passed. So this was a very interesting time for Walt, both personally and professionally. And you also sort of get to see and meet some of the animators that went along with him as well. So highly recommend Walt and El Grupo. And yeah, Coco's, and now I want Mexican food. All right, we'll just go around the horn. Obviously for Norway, Frozen 2, and Olaf's Frozen Adventure. And don't forget Lego Disney Frozen Northern Lights.
How could I forget that? I have 3 posters. I'm looking at it right now from the main Norway stuff there.
Yeah. Mulan, obviously for China. And there's also China, The Secret of the Magic Gourd, which is Disney's first feature film produced especially for China.
Interesting. I would also say Disney Nature, Born in China. Born in China. Following some panda bears, you can't go wrong with that, among other creatures. So that's a cool one for sure for me for China.
Okay, so unless I missed something, I had to really stretch a little bit for Germany and Italy. So for Germany, the only thing I got was Emil and the Detectives, which was set in Berlin and filmed in Germany.
I was just going to go what I thought was the easiest one, which was Snow White.
Oh my
God. You actually scared me when you didn't say Snow White. I was like, oh, God, it's the wrong country.
I just want to give you the softball. That's all.
Yeah, that's a deep pull, my friend. Very good.
And then Italy, I mean, again, all right, we've got the obvious, with things like Pinocchio, but again, I tried to go deep. And the only thing I got was the Lizzie McGuire movie.
Sing to me, Paolo. Sing to me, Paolo.
Lizzie got to go to Rome.
Oh, let me tell you the story of Lizzie McGuire. My goodness, was she wronged by Paolo in that film? Oh gosh, thank you for bringing that up. That I have to rewatch that now tonight. Ugh.
All right, so take us over to American Adventure.
American Adventure. I mean, it's tough with the American Adventure because we can say everything we said, about Frontierland, about Liberty Square, about even Main Street USA. Most of the ones, that are American themed, we can definitely put in American Adventure. But we have a new barbecue restaurant there. And, I'll be darned if I don't mention this is where I'm getting my Muppets tie-in, baby. Whatever Muppets movie you want, Sam Eagle, he's cooking up barbecue in the back. I don't think anyone's mentioned how it's weird that he's cooking up chicken as well, but that's besides the point. It doesn't matter. We're seeing the Muppets. We're seeing the Muppets Take Manhattan, the Great Muppet Caper. I don't know if the Great Muppet Caper is on there, but I just rewatched the Muppet movie, the Muppets starring Jason Segel from a few years back. I absolutely love that film, and I'm tying it into the American Adventure.
I will go a little bit more, heart of America with the 2004 documentary America's Heart and Soul, which is sort of this road trip across the U.S. and, which I think shows that while we are all very different, there is a spirit of America that hopefully continues to unite us all. The National Geographic miniseries America's National Parks, Bully Beautiful, Theodore Roosevelt, and how do you forget National Treasure with the greatest American actor of our time, Nicolas Cage?
No. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
I'm actually upset at myself now. You want to hear my Nick Cage impression?
I without a doubt.
I'm going to steal the Declaration of Independence. Thank you.
We don't get a lot of impressions on the show, but that might be the best one.
I'm your guy. I am your guy. I've been waiting years to do that on the show, my friend. You want to go super America too? Nothing gets me, rah, rah, USA more than Miracle, the hockey film about, the 1980 Olympic hockey team. Miracle on Ice, such a great movie, and we can tie that into the American Pavilion for sure.
So I'm going to I have to jump onto Japan because it's my favorite pavilion. I just visited last year. My love of Japan goes very far and very deep. And even before we talked about doing this segment, I discovered again a hidden gem, I think, on Disney Plus. Admittedly, National Geographic was not a huge attractor to me. I just don't watch a lot, and I've been fascinated by what I have found in terms of the quantity and quality of the programming. And I won't go into my Nat Geo rant about how much I enjoy it, but I had been thinking about Japan a lot recently, and I just found Japan between Earth and Sky. It is nothing short of spectacular. It is shot in 4K. You can watch it on mute for all I care, although the narration is poetic. It's poetic. And there's this tranquil beauty of Japan, and it's made up of 3 films that total just about an hour in length, and it takes us geographically from north to south and has this wonderfully balanced look at nature, tradition and modern times. It is, I think, one of the most beautiful films that you will see here or anywhere else. It's calming. It's peaceful. It reminds me of places that I went, places that I want to revisit, and places I want to explore for the first time. If you want something that is relaxing, educational, and yes, even a little inspiring, I cannot recommend it. Like, I'm going to watch it again. Like, I want to just take my laptop downstairs, work on the couch, and just have this playing in the background.
I don't think there's been anything on Nat Geo that I haven't just been blown away with. I think almost everything that they've brought to the Disney Plus table is so fantastic. And that's just like, that's the cherry on top. You know, we got all of our Disney, our Marvel, our Pixar, our Star Wars, but oh my gosh, we also have these incredible documentaries and nature series from Nat Geo. I love it. I can't get enough.
Gorgeous. It's gorgeous. Like, and especially if you have like a 4K TV or something, it is just, it's beautiful. It is. And it's not what you expect it to be. It's not, a triptych tourist guide of Japan. It is the areas of Japan that you would probably never see otherwise. And just as a quick aside, if that's not your cup of tea, I get it. I dig it. I had to find a way to include one of my favorite Disney movies, which does not take place in Japan, certainly inspired by Japanese culture. Big Hero 6 in San Francisco. I love that movie. You can see a lot of torii gates and pagodas and things like that. And if you really, really just need even more, the Cars tune Tokyo Mater does a little drift style racing in Tokyo because you can never have enough Mater.
You drift down there in Orlando? Is that how you get to and from the parks?
That's how I get to my mailbox. I just literally just drift down the driveway. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Love Big Hero 6.
In my CRV.
Yeah. The neighbors are not happy with Lou, but you got to do what you got to do. I love Big Hero 6. I'm on board with that. No stretch for me. I totally get that. San Fran, Tokyo, Did you have any for Morocco? So,
look, it's not Aladdin, but it's Aladdin, right? And that's was some of the issues with when the pavilion first opened. But if you want to sort of make that loose connection, Aladdin, you got Return of Jafar and King of Thieves and the live action, which I have not seen the live action remake yet.
It's really good. I was like pleasantly surprised. I think a lot of these live action remakes have been okay. Some of them I have enjoyed. I was not expecting Aladdin, the live action one, for me to like it, but I really, really enjoyed it.
That's the one starring DJ Jazzy Jeff, right?
Yes, that's right.
Or the Fresh Prince.
Right. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And also Carlton makes an appearance. Very weird.
All right. So France, go ahead. France is easy.
Beauty and the Beast, I mean, we're getting even more Beauty and the Beast with our sing-alongs and things like that. We could even, technically do a Sleeping Beauty, I believe. So those are really the two big ones. And I also, Aristocats. I mean,
what? Wait, Ratatouille.
Oh my gosh. In my head with the pavilions too, I always think about, okay, what characters can I meet there? Who have I seen walking around? And those ones I have. And very, very, very soon, we're going to start to see, more Remy, more Emile. So that's awesome.
I just want to be vindicated for missing Snow White. That's all. I was just trying.
You are.
UK, obviously, Mary Poppins. If you haven't seen Bedknobs and Broomsticks, David Tomlinson is in there as well. So is director Robert Stevenson. Very much, a sister movie as it maybe were to Mary Poppins. Robin Hood, 1973, has some great music in there as well. Sword in the Stone, Kid in King Arthur's Court. Might be one if you're interested in some of the legends of King Arthur.
Yeah, those are pretty much the big ones. I could tie Peter Pan into it because we got a topiary there from Peter Pan. Those are the big ones for me. Lou, I just typed in Canada to Disney Plus. Nothing came up. So I guess we could move on.
The Incredible Journey. The Incredible 3 pets explore Canada far and wide in The Incredible Journey as they traverse 200 miles across gorgeous Canadian wilderness to find their family.
I had no idea that was in Canada. I believe I was supposed to read the book in middle school. I can't recall if I did or not.
There's also the 7-part docuseries about the history of poutine coming soon. No. It's wishful thinking. I'm just.
Yes, it is. I'll give you one though. Martin Short used to be the narrator of The Great O Canada. You can watch the Santa Claus 3. You can watch Jungle to Jungle. Martin Short's on Disney Plus. He has been represented, which is always welcome.
I almost did a really bad Ed Grimley impression. So, but I won't.
Well, I don't know how bad it was compared to my Nick Cage, but
Yeah, Nick Cage is going to be tough to beat. All right, let's move over to Disney's Hollywood Studios. Obviously, I think we can just say that the Imagineering story encompasses all of the parks. I think that as I thought about the history of Hollywood Studios when it was Disney MGM Studios and when it was a true animation studio, and if you remember, sort of outside the theater, there used to be some of the handprints of some of the famed animators. I think that you have to watch not just Waking Sleeping Beauty, but you have to watch Frank and Ollie, which documents the careers of Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnson, who were 2 of the 9 old men.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And that one, I believe, is also directed by Frank's son, who went on to do Walt and El Grupo as well. Anytime you can get those stories of the people that helped create the magic, that helped create and draw such iconic characters, that's so cool. And I just love the Frank and Ollie story. Best friends, they get jobs at the Disney company. They move their next door neighbors throughout their entire career. 2 legends living next to each other. So cool. So cool.
It's like The Odd Couple for a new generation.
Yeah. Okay.
Sure. So going down Hollywood Boulevard, we talked about, I think, the Mickey Mouse shorts, Potato Land, Saving Mr. Banks, we had mentioned before. And as we approached Echo Lake, we mentioned Rocketeer earlier, but there's a lot of Rocketeer references, not just in Sci-Fi Dine-In, but at PV's Polar Pipeline as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that you can also, if you really want to stretch, I was trying to think inside of Sci-Fi Dine-In Theater. I don't think they actually show any clips, but it really is about those weird, wacky, B movies from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. So I'm going to tell you to go watch The Cat from Outer Space.
Okay. All right. You can tell me to do whatever. I might not follow through with it, but okay.
1978. That's good TV right there. That is good TV right there.
Was that a TV special?
No, it was a movie. It was a full-blown movie.
No, I've heard horror tales about it, but sure, yeah. I mean, if I'll tell you what, the next time I go into Sci-Fi Dine-In and The Cat from Outer Space comes up while I'm eating my cheeseburger, I'm going to be a little upset. I'll be honest, but we can tie it in nonetheless.
All right, so Toy Story Land is obviously obvious. Although Forky asks a question, is a very interesting, creative display of Forky and his unique way of thinking.
Interesting is the operative word there. I would describe it as a feature on Disney Plus. I'll leave it at that.
There you go.
If we want to stretch even further, kind of on the backside of Toy Story Land, I know we're kind of making this circle, but it was right next to Sci-Fi Drive-In as well. Baseline Tap House, it's themed after kind of one of the old print shops, basically on Hyperion Avenue, I believe, back in California, and they have printings up, kind of hanging in the rafters, and it's also a nod to the there's certain elements. The writer stop used to be there, so there are certain elements to that previous kind of little cafe. But if you look up, you can see, I believe it's some sort of posters from Pinocchio, and you can kind of see the process that they're going through of drawing and then laying the first color on and then laying the second color on and stuff like that. So that's how I'm tying it in. Plus, I need a charcuterie board. I need a flight of beer.
I am not going to give it all up here, but next time we go, there are some amazing references up in the rafters that are so obscure and so hard to find, not just to what was there previously, but to Disneyland as well. Really, really good stuff. So
if we can get a show out of that and charcuterie board, sign me up.
Listen, always. So Grand Avenue, obviously anything Muppets, Muppet Movie, Great Muppet Caper, Muppet Christmas Carol, Muppet Treasure Island, The Muppets, Muppets Most Wanted, and the very, very, very short-lived 2015 series as well. We skipped Animation Courtyard, not necessarily in my wheelhouse much anymore because my kids are older, but get out there and check out Doc McStuffins, The Lion Guard, Vampirina, Mickey and the Roadster Racers, and The Little Mermaid Live, which we actually just watched the other night with my family.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. I forgot about that.
It was interesting.
Cool. Yeah. those live ones are always interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
It was a combination of live performance and a lot of animation from the original film.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah.
Kind of interpretive dance and stuff like that going on there. So
I think that'd be right up my alley. That's what I majored in college. Don't need to spot check me on that or whatever. Quick thing that's coming up later this year as well. When it comes to the Muppets Now, that's going to be the first ever unscripted Muppets TV series that's coming to Disney Plus. So I'm really, really excited about that.
Lest we forget High School Musical, the series, the musical, which my kids love, by the way. My daughter loves that.
Yeah. I ain't too proud to admit it, too.
There's also the Pixar in Real Life series as well, for all the connections to Pixar. I think Encore is one that you can probably stretch and put in there as well. Certainly Cars and all the Cars stuffs. And there's that little place down the street known as Galaxy's Edge.
Yes. We could talk about most of the Lego Star Wars series. On top. Lou, I'm not going to pick the most obvious ones, the new Star Wars films, the old Star Wars films, the middle Star Wars films. That's what they should be referred to, the middle Star Wars films. What I'm going to pick is something unique. Empire of Dreams, the story of the Star Wars trilogy. Really, really awesome documentary about those first three films. It follows George Lucas for the most part, but it's got interviews with not just the actors, but the producers, the people behind the scenes, the camera operators, things like that. And it just follows the path of how big a deal, Star Wars, now A New Hope really was. And then the success and how difficult the other two films were also to make. So I really, 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 really love that.
I love that a lot. And then, of course, there's the Star Wars films that you should care about: A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi with my fellow Ewoks. Certainly The Mandalorian, I've watched twice so far with my family. But Disney Gallery, The Mandalorian, is a new 8-part documentary miniseries that debuted just about a month ago that talks about different aspects of the series. So if you want to really learn about how things are made and mindset and the incredible special effects that have never been done anywhere, it's just mind-blowing how they create it. Jon Favreau, I just want to be friends with him. Not just because of him, who's the wild man now in Rudy and Iron Man and Marvel, but what he has done with The Mandalorian. And I'm not just even referencing the child, but I think The Mandalorian single-handedly reignited a level of Star Wars fandom that admittedly had dissipated a lot over the last number of years.
Such a cool guy, Jon Favreau, and God bless him for doing what he's done with everything, whether it's Marvel, whether it is, I love the Jungle Book live adaptation, The Mandalorian, stuff like that. Really, really, really cool. And I hope that the gallery's sort of stuff is something that they continue to do with other series as well. Kind of with Disney Insider, we're getting looks into all sorts of different avenues of the company. But, here's hoping that when we start to get some Marvel live action series, maybe they start doing that with those Marvel things or with other, components on Disney Plus as well.
Kevin Feige, I'm looking at you, brother.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
All right, let's make our way over to Disney's Animal Kingdom.
Can I do one quick final shout out?
Of course, sorry.
To Hollywood Studios and things that are no longer there.
Oh.
Lou, let's not forget that Disney's MGM Studios opened with the intention of being a real live action and animated studio lot. And in many ways, they succeeded. So if you want to watch Mulan, Lilo and Stitch, and Brother Bear, those are 3 animated films that were produced primarily at Disney's MGM Studios in the animation department there. That was part of the original tour as well, when you used to do the backstage tour sort of stuff. But what I'm really upset about is The Lottery, starring Bette Midler, Splash 2, TOO, and The Tower of Terror are some of the live action films filmed at Disney's MGM Studios. Unfortunately, none of those are on Disney Plus yet, but hopefully eventually they will come. So that's just a kind of a cool tie-in to realize, oh wow, these ones were built and created in Florida.
Do you remember the mermaid fountain over by the studio catering company?
That was from Splash. Yeah, Splash 2.
See, everything ties. It's like 6 degrees of Splash is what this entire show is really going to be.
Yeah, podcast idea.
All right, so moving over to Disney's Animal Kingdom again, Imagineering story touches on it. Episode 4, Hit or Miss, really talks a lot about Animal Kingdom. And obviously there's a lot of Disney nature documentaries, and even some of the true life series like Secrets of Life, Wings of Life is one of the Disney nature series as well. But I think that there's other ones too that might be obvious and a few that might be hidden connections as well.
Yeah. And, we can obviously start with the obvious ones, and we can start with Avatar. We have one film so far. We have, I believe James Cameron has said 23 other films. I don't know if there are that many slated to be done, but something that's interesting about this film is seeing it in the movie theaters, back in 2008, 2009 was for many people like a life-changing experience. One of the first movies that was shot for 3D on those big IMAX cameras that really, really moved people. I think when it transitions to the smaller screen at your home, the story might not hold up as much. But what I think it's a testament to is the power of the Imagineers to take a landscape in Avatar that, you might not be emotionally connected to because of the story or because of what's going on in that world, but create a place that is truly, truly, truly breathtaking for a film that, might be the highest grossing film of all time or what have you, but it's not necessarily one that people have strong emotional connections to. But I think you can have strong emotional connections to that land.
Mm-hmm. I agree 110%. I couldn't tell you the name of characters from Avatar. I know Ripley was in it and Giovanni Ribisi was in it and the blue guys and that's it. But I love the land and I love how that attraction makes me feel. Elsewhere through the parks, again, the easy high level stuff is things like A Bug's Life for Discovery Island, which, by the way, it's tough to be a bug, actually opened before the film opened up. A Bug's Life opened April 22nd, 1998. Although it's tough to be a bug opened April 22nd. A Bug's Life didn't open until November of that year. So for a few months, you got to see these characters that you had never seen in a film before.
Yeah, super interesting, especially from the fact that it's the centerpiece attraction. I mean, it's in the Tree of Life. That could have been a huge miss for Disney, for Pixar, but they went all in on it, and kudos to them because I don't know if you enjoy hearing little children scream, but if you do, it's tough to be a bug. That's the attraction.
Well, it was that or Mars Needs Moms. So they had to choose one of the two to be the centerpiece. So if you wanted to hear adults scream, it could have been Mars.
Oh, interesting.
I've never seen it, so I shouldn't joke about Mars Need Moms. I might actually love it. So
yeah. I'm sure you'd love A Cat from Outer Space too, or whatever the heck you call that. Maybe kind of a lesser known one, even though it's the same exact name. Dinosaur, the movie, and also Dinosaur, the attraction. Lou, I've learned so much about Dinosaur from you. Dinosaur is one of my top 5 favorite attractions because of how ridiculous it is. I love the lines in the attraction. And by lines, I mean the quips from Dr. Grant Seeker. I love "You're not going to make it. You're not going to make it." You made it. I love that there's a reference to McDonald's, not just their ketchup, mustard, and mayo scientific equations on the pipes, because McDonald's was an original sponsor of the attraction. I think this is just such a quirky ride. And the fact that it opened as Countdown to Extinction, something completely different. And then we had Dinosaur, which is this weird kind of CGI film that came out in 2000 when Disney was really trying to duke it out in a lot of ways of what Pixar was doing. And then they basically added in the what is his name, Aladar, something like that, Dinosaur to Dinosaur. It's a weird tie-in that I don't think people really connect, because not a whole lot of people have seen that film, but I absolutely love the attraction.
Well, I think I can probably use this opportunity to break this news now that they're actually going to be retheming Dinosaur in Disney's Animal Kingdom to The Good Dinosaur. 2015, the 3D. By the way, I'm kidding, obviously. But if you're a dinosaur person, then check out Disney Plus, The Good Dinosaur, the Pixar film released by Walt Disney Pictures, which was probably not its biggest hit ever. But it is dinosaur themed, and my son in his younger years would have consumed anything that was dinosaur related. And as long as we're in Dino Land, you have to go see all of the Finding Nemos just for Finding Nemo the musical.
Absolutely.
Which is some of the best music anywhere in the park, by the way.
It's incredible. So underrated. So underrated, that show. I love it. And of course, how can you not love Finding Nemo, Finding Dory, all of that stuff?
In Asia, you need to go see Up for the Up Bird Adventure. I will see your Up and I will raise you Monkey Kingdom, Disney nature documentary.
Yeah. And really all of those Disney nature documentaries, I love the 2 elements. They always seem to get a cool celebrity narrator, and I don't know who Monkey Kingdom is, but I know like the Bears is John C. Reilly. The elephant one they just had is Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. Is that it? Or Cambridge? I'm so sorry. I've probably offended many.
Go back to Nicolas Cage again. Do Nicolas Cage.
we should have picked her for Canada too. I forgot about that. But so Natalie Portman doing the dolphin stuff. So really, really cool stories, really cool shots, and then a cool narrator as well.
I will just for fun, because I'm loving on National Geographic. There's also a documentary called Secrets of the King Cobra. And as you know, of course, Connor, the king cobra is native to Southeast Asia and India.
I didn't, but I now know I will never be going to Southeast Asia. Like snakes. This is a huge go with me, of course. But when I look up at Expedition Everest and I see one of the biggest mountains in all of Florida, the only thing I'm reminded of now is Free Solo, the epic documentary from Nat Geo. It's an absolutely insane documentary. It's on Disney Plus. If you've never watched it, I highly, highly, highly recommend it. Really, really cool story. Interesting characters in that, but that's my tie-in to Expedition Everest.
Free Solo is the solo climber who was trying to scale the El Capitan. Is that what it was? The El Capitan?
Yeah. So Yosemite. Yeah. So Free Solo is basically, he doesn't have any ropes or anything. I mean, he's just going for it, which is and he's by himself. So he is an interesting character. His name's Alex. I can't remember his last name, but he's just super gung-ho about that sort of stuff. And, it's also directed by a mountaineer. So the shots that they get, they're scaling the walls next to him and stuff. And And it's a really, really, really interesting story about a very, very interesting guy.
Yeah. And I have a feeling this ends very differently than 127 Hours with James Franco, which did not end well for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or,
I don't think it's on Disney Plus though.
I love Rafiki's Planet Watch. I've loved it since I used to take my kids, and even just going on my own and just to see how the animal specialists take care of such a wide spectrum of species in a place that really is a theme park. Again, National Geographic has a number of different series about Rocky Mountain Animal Rescue. There are some that focus on some veterinarians, including Dr. K's Exotic Animal ER, which sounds a little bit something like Tiger King, but I think it's probably very, very different.
No. Very different. Very different.
So, yeah. And I mean, I think a lot of the things at Nat Geo you can tie into Planet Watch.
We've kind of been weaving in, things that are currently on there and things that are coming. This has been announced and it's still in the works. We haven't got a whole lot of details, but there will be a series coming out following the veterinarian and the animal keeping team, not only at Animal Kingdom, but also the ones from the seas in Epcot. Again, hasn't really been announced with too much details. I do know that it's still in the works. So I think that's going to be very cool, but that's going to be produced in association with National Geographic as well.
Yeah. Again, all the Disney Nature and National Geographic stuff. We talked about African cats, elephant's tail, tree climbing lions, Kingdom of the Apes, Battle Lions, which sounds like another sequel to the much beloved for me Planet of the Apes series. But yeah, there's certainly great stuff that you can tie into any or all the lands at Disney's Animal Kingdom.
Monkey Kingdom, Kingdom of the Apes. My goodness.
DuckTales. I think Chippendale's Rescue Rangers, we will lighten things up a little bit. They are Rescue Rangers, and you can tie it in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's also Unlikely Animal Friends on National Geographic. There's also a really good documentary about Jane Goodall. If we're talking about Animal Kingdom, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention Jane Goodall too.
But I think it's super important to just kind of, keep mentioning things, Lou, because I think for a lot of people who might be on the fence, I don't think a lot of the, people listening right now and members of the Box People group are not signed up for Disney Plus. But I think the biggest question I always get from my friends is, okay, well, I've seen all the Marvel, I've seen all the Star Wars, I've seen all the Pixar. I'm pretty much done with Disney Plus, right? No, it's a treasure trove of content beyond the Disney walls, and things like all of these animal, and Nat Geo combinations are just awesome.
And certainly the ultimate connective tissue for Animal Kingdom would be the 2001 film Dr. Dolittle 2.
Yes.
Starring Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Murphy. Not getting a whole lot of in this list.
He's come a long way since Eddie Murphy Delirious and Saturday Night Live. But yeah, look, the thing is, there is something for every member of the family to watch individually or collectively as a family. I think the way Walt had intended, again, I want to bring it all the way back to Walt. That's what he wanted the Disneyland TV series to be. He wanted us to gather around the TV as a family. And I think that's what Disney Plus is allowing us to do. And because we can't get to the parks now because they're closed, or just even in general because we can't get there as often as you might like, there are so many different ways and avenues to bring things that you see, hear, do, experience in the parks home to you via Disney Plus.
Lou, I have one final one I want to mention. If we want to start wrapping things up, what do you say?
Go ahead.
So I'm picking Toy Story. And, it's not because I love Buzz Lightyear's Space Ranger spin, which I do. And I'm a guaranteed galactic hero. Every time I get on that attraction, no doubt about that, I'm going to max out the score. It's not that I love Toy Story Land, which I do. I think Slinky Dog Dash is awesome. I love Toy Story Mania and tachos from Woody's Lunchbox. Need I say more? No, Lou, the reason I'm picking Toy Story is because it's the first movie I ever saw in the movie theaters. And growing up, that's the movie I watched, all the time. As a kid, I remember dressing up as Woody for one Halloween. And then the next Halloween, I dressed up as Buzz. And then as an adult, I also dressed up as Buzz for Halloween, but really that's a conversation I just need to have with my therapist. Regardless of that, I love the first two movies, but then for me, that third movie, Toy Story 3, Andy goes to college. And around that time, I was getting ready to go to college too. So in many ways, I felt like I was Andy. This was my childhood. And I don't want anyone saying, oh, it was Pixar or whatever. It's Disney. In my mind, that's Disney for me. Growing up and seeing all my favorite characters in those Disney parks, it's Toy Story. It's Disney. But this is a type of pick that everyone out there will have a different selection of, right? It might be the first movie you saw. It might be your favorite movie. It might be the movie that just had a really super big impact on you during an important time of your life. Whatever it is, it's going to be a certain movie for you. Lou, I love the fact that Disney Plus is a great way for us to entertain ourselves. But what I love even more is that Disney Plus, it's the ultimate way to relive those memories. I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it, because remembering those connections and emotions that Disney is good at creating, that's what Disney does. They forge memories. They create those lasting emotions for you. For me, it's Toy Story. Lou, it might be something else for you. For a friend out there listening, it might be something different as well. But I love Disney Plus because I can, capture those memories and those emotions that I always loved growing up.
Without a doubt, you're bringing full circle back to what we started talking about, was the way it's about the way Disney makes us feel, in a way all of these different shows on Disney Plus make us feel, whether they make us laugh, cry, feel a sense of sentimentality and or nostalgia. I want to know from you, what is your favorite parks-related show on Disney Plus, or maybe a hidden gem that you want others to enjoy? There's lots of ways we can talk about this. Be part of the community and conversation by going to wdwradio.com/community. We can talk about this week's show or anything you want there. You can also call the voicemail at 407-900-9391. That's 407-900-WDW1. Let me know one of your favorite park-related shows on Disney Plus and why. And then, when you're done with all that, you have to go to WDWopinion.com. And Connor, again, tell people where they can find you and what they can find there, and some of the other stuff that you're doing on your site.
Absolutely. So, WDW Opinion, it's where we help you plan for and daydream about your next perfect Walt Disney World vacation. We're a blog, we're a podcast, we got the live show as well. I would love for you guys to check out the podcast. But something we're also doing on our live show each week, we're going to start doing a Disney Plus movie club. It's kind of like a book club, except you don't have to read. You can thank me later. You can learn about all of this stuff by visiting wdwopinion.com.
Awesome. And I will link to all that in the show notes. Man, this was tons of fun. We've got to do this again. There's lots of other fun stuff we can certainly talk about again, as long as you promise me one thing, that you will bring a Nicolas Cage impression to each and every show that we do going forward.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. This is going to be what I'm known for, which I'm all right with. I'm okay with it.
Listen, if the Disney thing doesn't work out, you've always got that. You could always be.
Yeah. Times Square Nick Cage impersonator.
Awesome. Dude, thank you. All right, so listen, if you hang up the phone right now and go down and go sit on your couch and turn on Disney Plus, what's the first thing you put on? Go.
Cats from Outer Space. No, I'm putting on Lizzie McGuire movie, man. Paolo, sing to me. You didn't sing during this, and I was very offended. I do have to watch National Treasure again, just because, God, so good.
I'm telling you, watch Japan Between Earth and Sky.
There's something where you just got to get the queue filled up with as much Nat Geo stuff as human.
I know. I never watched it before, and now I'm waving the Nat Geo flag pretty hard.
I'll watch the Japan stuff. You watch Free Solo, but then you got to promise me we'll go on a free solo adventure one day.
Done-ish.
Oh, wow.
For all here in Florida we'll do it, where there's lots of really tall mountains.
Those hills are tough to climb sometimes.
They're called speed bumps. It's time for our Walt Disney World Trivia Question of the Week, where I invite you to test your knowledge of Walt Disney World's history, or just see how well you pay attention to the details, sometimes what you see, hear, or yes, even taste. If you think you know the answer, you can enter via our online form for a chance to win a Disney prize package. Of course, before we get to this week's question, we're going to go back, review last week's, and select our winner. So last week, I took you back to Walt Disney World, specifically Epcot Center's history, and I asked you to tell me the name of the pilot that guided the audience through a 12-year-old's morning routine in the extinct Cranium Command attraction in the Wonders of Life Pavilion. Now, I want to first thank the so many of you who entered, got this one correct, and knew that the answer is Buzzy. Now, Buzzy is this rookie recruit in the Cranium Commando forces. He was originally going to be called Captain Cortex, which was a name and a design created by Imagineer X Atencio back in 1987. Now, if you don't remember the show, which debuted in October 1989, it sort of felt like an audio animatronic early version of the Pixar film Inside Out, which would make sense because Pete Docter was an animator on this project. It was one of his first jobs. He'd later become a director at Pixar, and his third feature was, of course, Inside Out, where he explored the mind of an 11-year-old girl, and he admitted that the attraction played a part in inspiring the development of the film. It also featured a star-studded cast, stars of 1989, including George Wendt from Cheers as the hungry stomach, Charles Grodin was the left brain, John Lovitz was the right brain, Bobcat Goldthwait was the adrenal gland, Dana Carvey and Kevin Nealon reprised their roles as Hans and Franz from Saturday Night Live, and they were the left and right ventricles, of course, to pump you up. The hypothalamus was Kirk Wise. Again, the list sort of went on, and the show played until about early 2004 before it went seasonal and then closed permanently on January 1st, 2007. Anyway, I took all of the correct entries, randomly selected one, and again, last week you were playing for all of my digital products, my 102 Ways to Save Money for an at Walt Disney World book, all 7 of my virtual audio walking tours of Magic Kingdom, where I take you land by land in 3D binaural audio and give you a walking tour of the secrets, history, details, and stories. All those, by the way, still available for just $10 at WDW Radio.com. I'm also going to send the winner a WDW Radio vinyl sticker, a Magic Band cover, and a mystery prize from my personal collection. I am in the process of going through my 5 decades of collecting Disney and Star Wars items and putting 10 new items each week up on eBay at www.radio.com/eBay. $1 opening bid, no reserve, things going back from the late 60s, early 70s, books, artwork, collectibles, and lots more. Again, each auction begins and ends, 10 new auctions every week, Sundays at 9 p.m. Anyway, I'm going to pull one of those items, add that to the prize package, and last week's winner, randomly selected, is Eric Arroyo. So, Eric, congratulations. Use the online form at WDWRadio.com. I have your shipping address. I will get your prize package out to you right away. If you played last week and didn't win, that's okay, because here's your next chance to enter in this week's Walt Disney World Trivia Challenge. So when Morocco, we're going to stay in Epcot, when Morocco in Epcot Center's World Showcase first opened, the Tangerine Cafe, side note, one of arguably the best counter service locations anywhere in Walt Disney World. Anyway, the Tangerine Cafe did not open with the pavilion. It actually opened years later. So this week's trivia question is, tell me, what originally occupied the location where the Tangerine Cafe currently sits? Now you have until Sunday, June 21st at 11:59 p.m. Eastern to go to WDWRadio.com, click on this week's podcast, use the online form there. Again, you're going to play for all the digital products, the book, the audio tours, the vinyl sticker, the Magic Band cover, and I'm also going to pull another mystery item from my collection. And if you're enjoying playing these trivia questions each week, don't forget to join me on Instagram every single day for daily Disney trivia. It's easy, fun, just a few seconds to play. Great way to test your knowledge and maybe even learn something along the way. You can find those on my Instagram stories every morning at Instagram.com/Lou Mongello. So good luck and have fun. That's going to do it for this week's show. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in this and every week. I sincerely appreciate you. I know your time is your most valuable commodity, and I'm grateful that you spend and share it with me. Please come by, be part of the community and the conversation at WDWRadio.com/community. That is our group over on Facebook. It is fun, family-friendly, incredibly welcoming. Come and talk about this week's show, a past episode, or anything you'd like to discuss. Again, WDWRadio.com/community. Speaking of community and really family, I want to thank everybody who is a member of the WDW Radio Nation family. I appreciate your love and your support, your friendship and help. And I also love being able to give back to you each and every month. I want to thank some new and longtime members like Troy Bryant, Doug Smydebush, Joseph Breton, Karen St. Pierre, Richard Pete, and Andrew Milan. And if you want to find out how you can not only help the show, but also get exclusive rewards every month, including scavenger hunts and trivia quests, access to our private Facebook group, custom Magic Band covers, logo gear, t-shirts, backpacks, care packages from Walt Disney World, exclusive live video group calls, and lots more, please visit WDWRadio.com/support. And of course, while it is completely optional, it is a great way for you to not only help the show, but show your support for WDW Radio. And don't forget that a portion of the proceeds of your contributions go to our Dream Team project to benefit the Make-A-Wish Foundation of America. If you have a question you'd like me to answer on the show, you can email me, lou@wdwradio.com, or call the voicemail be heard on the air at 407-900-9391. It's 407-900-WDW1 with a question, a comment, or just a hello. Please join me this and every Wednesday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern for WDW Radio Live on Facebook. It is a weekly interactive conversation and chat where I'll share my top 5 live, a new top 5 every week. Ask you to weigh in as well. We'll play 20 questions, talk about this week's show and Walt Disney World news and lots more. Again, every Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern at WDWRadioLive.com. Let's also keep the conversation going on social. I am at Lou Mongello on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. And stay tuned to our events page at WDWRadio.com/events for more virtual and upcoming in-person events, including our Marvel Day at Sea cruise this January on the Disney Magic out of Miami, Florida. For more information, you can visit WDWRadio.com/Marvel Cruise. There you'll find our itinerary, as well as get a free, no-obligation quote. And of course, that quote is going to come from our friends over at MEI and Mousefan Travel, my official and recommended travel provider for all your vacation planning needs as we start to get ready to open up and travel once again, whether you're traveling domestically, internationally, to a Disney destination or anywhere on the planet. You realize now, I think more than ever, the importance of having a travel agent, not only to help you book, but to be there on your side in case things ever go wrong. More importantly, Becky and her entire team of agents treat you like family, which is why I use them, and more importantly, why I trust to recommend them. It's more than just about getting the best possible prices. It is really that level of personal service and care that is their hallmark. Again, you can find them over at mousefantravel.com. And as always, my friend, and you are my friend, whether we have met yet or not, all I ask is that if you like the show, please help spread the word. Let others know about it. How? You can tweet out that you're listening, share a link to this or your favorite episodes on Facebook, and if you can, take just 30 seconds to rate and review the show over on Apple Podcasts. It is so incredibly helpful. I want to thank some recent reviewers like #anger, #frustration, which is a little scary, who says, first-time listener, very impressive, interesting, and intriguing podcast. Love the history and attention to details. Orange Teach says it's outstanding. I listened to the podcast since the beginning, and Lou keeps getting better and better. Through the years, other podcasts have gained some ground, but none of them have overtaken WDW Radio for the top spot. Lou is fantastic and unbelievably knowledgeable, as well as creative and fun. It's a great podcast for all things Disney World. Moon Facerio says, it's the best part of my week. I've been listening to Lou for years. The podcast not only never gets old, but it really never fails to bring a smile to my face, which is exactly what I wanted to do. I find myself singing along to the interlude backgrounds and repeating his sign-off, see ya. Truly like coming home when I tune in. Thank you, Lou, for bringing the magic from Florida straight into our homes. Moon Facerio, I am smiling ear to ear. Vertical Chaos says, love with lots of exclamation points. Fabulous podcast about all things Disney, past, current, and sometimes future. Lou's passionate about Disney and what it stands for, and it shows both in him and the guests he has on the show. He's super enthusiastic and positive, but never fake. My only wish is that food reviews included people with allergies. Vertical Chaos, I promise it's coming. I keep volunteering as tribute as someone gluten-free, but so far no dice. Vertical Chaos, reach out to me. We'll make that happen. And finally, Card 20 says, authenticity and attention to detail. Lou brings the energy, authenticity, and attention to detail that matches the Disney spirit. When I'm feeling down, Lou Mongello content is my go-to. And when I'm feeling up, I love the podcast and audio walking tours that I'm getting into in quarantine. Consistent detail and storytelling every time I hear Lou speak. That's what makes him so great. Highly recommend Card 20, Vertical Chaos, Moon Facerio, and Orange Teach, and of course, hashtag anger and frustration. Thank you all so very much. If you want to find out how and where to leave a review, just search for WDW Radio and Apple Podcasts, or go to www.radio.com/iTunes. It'll give you instructions and a link right there. Finally, most importantly, thank you. I love and appreciate you. I miss you very much. I miss the meets of the month and seeing you in the parks and at special events. And I know and I understand and I care and appreciate that you are dealing with so much right now. And that's why I really do hope that the show is a bright spot in your day and week, and a place of happiness and positivity, and maybe even a little bit of inspiration. Again, I always will choose the good, right? I will make lemonade from lemons. I will find the good in everything. And I hope you understand there's incredible power in those three words, choosing the good. You have the power to make choices and decisions and to pull out the good in everything that you encounter. There is opportunity sometimes when there is difficulty. And if there's any way that I can help you, please reach out to me. Go to LouMongello.com. There's lots of ways that we can connect and work together there. I really do hope that this is your best week ever. I hope that the show put a little or a big smile on your face, and that maybe you're just a little bit happier as a result of it. So until next time, thank you. I love you. See ya.
Hey Lou, it's Christine Morrison from Flowertown, Pennsylvania. It is Thursday night, about 8 o'clock. I'm just going for a walk. We had a major storm here yesterday, and a lot of people without power. Thank God I have mine, because it is hot, 90 degrees today, of course, right? So anyway, I'm calling to report that I really love the last show. I love when you guys do the reviews, especially with your family. I love hearing Deanna and the kids describe the food. And I love when Deanna says refreshing. I know you guys make fun of her for it. That's all right. It's all in good fun. I'm a huge wine lover. The redder the better is my motto. And I love the red blends just like Deanna. So anyway, love to the show. And I hope you guys are all doing well. I hope all of the WDW Nation is doing well. Everybody keep smiling. 2020's throwing a lot of stuff at us, but we're going to make it through. It's all for a reason, right? If it doesn't kill you, makes you stronger. So everybody smile. Make somebody else smile. It's contagious. Have a great day. And I'll see you guys in the box next week. Bye.
You know, Thomas Edison tried and failed nearly 2,000 times to develop the carbonized cotton thread filament for the incandescent light bulb.
Edison.
And when asked about it, he said, I didn't fail. I found out 2,000 ways how not to make a light bulb. But he only needed to find one way to make it work.